Hi,
everybody.
it's
Valerie
and Kelly.
And this is The One with the Podcast.
In each episode, we'll be discussing an episode of Friends, what we loved, what we didn't, and generally dissecting the show and how it stood the test of time.
We believe that it's important to discuss and critique things that we love because society doesn't really encourage people to critically reflect on things that are near and dear to our hearts.
Welcome back. Today we'll be discussing episode 2 of season 1 of Friends, the best show ever.
This particular episode is called The One with the Sonogram at the End. Oh, this is so important though. The beginning to this second episode where they're sitting around clearly divided by gender on each side, talking about like kissing and sex.
Oh God, I never noticed that. They're physically divided.
They're physically divided.
Where they're sitting.
Boys on one side, girls on the other.
Yeah.
Right. And this thing about like, you know, the kissing and the essentially foreplay is the comedian before Pink Floyd comes out. That's not why we bought the ticket.
No.
Mm-hmm. Like that for me is pretty rape culture-y in terms of, oh, I bought you dinner and now you have to put out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no.
It's like, yeah, you might have bought me dinner, but like you need to like look into my eyes and there's like shit that leads up to the sex.
Yeah,
It's
you need to not
important.
just assume that there's going to be any sex.
Yeah.
And
the sex will not be as good if you don't do the comedian part. Yeah. I can tell you that.
I mean, the foreplay, this is as like someone who's working towards being a sex therapist, which I didn't mention in our first episode, that I am a couples and family therapist. I specialize in issues of sex and intimacy and am working towards getting my certification as a sex therapist eventually. Like a lot of women struggle with sex because we have this idea that it's literally just like penis and vagina, penetrative sex until the man has an orgasm and then it's all done. And that's just not
That's
the
just
way.
not.
Just not the way. Dudes that are listening to this, not the way.
Dudes that are listening to this, remember how important the comedian is.
Yeah, just, yeah.
Just don't go straight for...
And don't ever assume. Don't ever assume.
No, don't ever
and
assume.
And also, men that are listening to this, good for you. So here we are. We start off in the Museum of Prehistoric History. Like you were saying last time, we get to see Ross at work.
Yes. Oh, here's another men and women situation.
Mm-hmm.
Ross and the female docent here discussing what this Neanderthal woman is thinking.
Right. And already we see like gender socialization in terms of this woman being like, oh, she's the one doing the cooking and the cleaning. Like this has been the case forever. This has not actually been the case forever. I'm not a historian or a scholar of like prehistoric life, but I can tell you pretty damn sure that no like Neanderthal woman was trying to get the mastodon smell out of the carpet.
I mean, I'm kind of a scholar of classical life. That is my educational background. What's up, Grease and Round?
Woo!
Woo! And yeah, that was not, it was more like a, you know, how do I live to see the next day kind of situation.
Yeah. Oh, and we get to see not Carol here.
Original Carol, the OC.
Carol, the woman who probably still stays up at night wondering why she either got fired or left the show. Which is interesting because it's not the pilot. Sometimes they record though, like the pilot and the first like episode or two
on the same.
Yeah, and also like, who comes to their ex-husband's work to tell them that they're pregnant?
Original Carol. Can I just say how glad I am that they found?
Like actual Carol. I know. I like her a lot.
She was perfect for that role.
She was.
They did do a great job with Susan. She was perfectly cast.
Yeah, perfectly cast.
Yeah.
I'm really hopeful that she's a lesbian in real life.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that until just this second. Yeah. And then they have Ross standing like the Neanderthal, which I think for Ross is pretty.
I think that's pretty spot on and a little bit of
foreshadowing.
Yes, thank you for. Why did I think forecasting? Because work. Foreshadowing, definitely. There's a lot of like Ross is immature in this episode.
He is really immature.
He is very uncomfortable around like Carol, her sexuality, and her body.
He's uncomfortable, like as
He's uncomfortable.
pertains to women and anything to do with vaginas, essentially.
I mean, he's clearly uncomfortable with her sexuality as a newfound lesbian or a newly out lesbian, but he's also very uncomfortable with her body as like a
pregnant woman.
Which,
Is he that uncomfortable with Rachel's pregnant body?
No.
But they're not in relationship at that point. That's one thing I never really thought about.
But they're
either.
not in a relationship either. They're recently broken up or divorced.
Right, but him and Rachel, other than the like one night stand that conceives Emma, haven't been in a relationship a really long time.
Yeah.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here anyway, because we're missing talking about this awesome bit about Ross and Monica's parents, Jack and Judy Geller.
Jack and Judy Geller.
Christina Pickles.
Hands down the best parents on this show. They're the ones that you see the most, at least. And they're
Elliot Gould, too.
Yes, they're so good.
Love him. They thought it was a hate crime. But here we have our first introduction to Ugly Naked Guy.
Yeah.
Which is so problematic. And just like... This is another thing that's super problematic about this show that I've been thinking more about for myself, and we've been talking about over the last couple of days, is the representation of bodies of varying size in the media. And how, like, Ugly Naked Guy is like, you don't necessarily want to have a nudist neighbor.
No.
But
you also don't have to be a voyeur and watch everything that he does.
Exactly.
Like, that's actually kind of the
that's
biggest
the thing,
problem.
Right? That is one of the biggest problems.
You totally have the right to be nude in your apartment, regardless of your size.
Yeah. And it's funny, though, because, like, ugly, even for me, even as we're talking about this now, and I know that I'm coming at this with the, like, knowledge that later on we actually get to see this actor playing the Ugly Naked Guy or whatever.
Hardly.
But we do see him, and he is like a heavier man. But one thing I'm even realizing now is that I at least just assumed that he was like overweight, quote unquote, because they call him ugly. You know?
Very good point.
Like
they never fully are like, overweight man or fat man.
Right. But they do call her Fat Monica, which... again,
sexism.
Right, for later.
Body shaming, etc.
So much, all of that. I mean...
Well, and I think that that's kind of why they retire this character. When is this, season 6? When
we never hear about Fat Monica again.
Not Fat Monica, Ugly Naked Man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or Ugly Naked Guy.
They stopped talking about Fat Monica at a certain point, too.
Fat Monica's in season 10. Yeah.
When?
Courtney Cox is pregnant the last time that she was in the fat suit. It was the one where, oh my God, the really good episode where they're telling the secrets. You were my first kiss ever? That one. Yes.
Okay, see, I forgot. You're right. All right, anyway, getting ahead of ourselves. So now we get to see in the second episode, or not the first time, but again, Ross has his like, hi, I'm so depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, with this horrible tie.
That tie is a recurring theme in season 1. Yes. But I think it might have been Trinity.
Carol's pregnant. Which, it's interesting. In the one that could have been or whatever, it makes it sound like they're just like not having sex.
I was going to bring that up for this episode as well, because I mean, and given that the one that could have been is entirely fictional. Right? That's not necessarily the way that it went.
Right.
But I mean, I feel like a lot of the conversations surrounding Ross and Carol and Susan's relationship is that like Ross kind of should have seen it coming.
Right.
So like,
but
that doesn't mean that they're not having sex.
That gets into kind of like the thing where women who are married are expected to just have sex with their husbands. Like regardless of how much they want it or not. Kind of coercive. Like, even if it's, like, a lower level and it's not violent and it's not anything, like, I also just read, shout out to The New Yorker, but there was a story in The New Yorker recently called Cat People, all about this. Kind kind of about like those weird things that happen when you end up in like a situation with someone and you feel like as a woman you can't say I don't want to do this anymore because it's going to be rude.
Because it's going to be rude.
Right.
Tina Fey, something she's written or something she said, she was like, it's amazing. I think it's an Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Shout out again. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Like, it's amazing. And actually, Matt Lauer says it. Oh my God, Matt Lauer says it. It's amazing what women will do to not be rude. Do you remember that in the interview with the 4 mole women?
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God. Ew.
Oh, cringe. Oh, it's so cringy.
Ew.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
I gotta like wipe that slime off of me.
Yep.
The Lauer slime.
Oh, that
Don't
was
sue me.
Yep. Okay. Let's just continue.
Yeah.
Let's change the subject here.
Yeah. So Carol's pregnant. Ross is just totally out of his wits. He's gonna be a father.
I kind of empathize with Ross sometimes in this episode because he's like, he feels very out of control in this very big life decision. Like, they say that I can be involved if I want to be. They want to raise the baby, but like, regardless, I'm going to be a father. And that was not something he was expecting.
Yeah, except if you're having unprotected sex with someone, like
With your wife?
even though, like, I don't care. As long as you're having unprotected sex with someone, you're trying to get pregnant, from my opinion. That's may not be a shared opinion, but
I don't know.
That's
it very
where
much
I'm sitting.
sounds like an accident to me.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, accidents do happen.
accidents happen. Emma was an accident too.
Yeah. Sometimes one of those little guys just gets through. Oh,
Maybe
and
they were having protected sex.
This is the thing you were telling me about.
Oh, Judy Geller.
So we're moving forward to the Gellers and their first dinner that we get to witness with Ross and Monica.
And as anybody who has seen this show knows, like, Ross is the promised child. He is the golden child. He can do no wrong in the parents' eyes. And Monica just cannot live up to the standards because woman.
Right.
Because the standard is so much higher for her. She can never live up to it. She's always at fault for something.
Yeah. Always.
Yeah. And this is one of my favorite conversations between her and Judy, where Judy's like, oh, so-and-so's daughter is going to call you because she wants to do something, with restaurants, whatever. Like, she has no actual interest in whatever it is that Monica does. She's like, and so I told her, you have a restaurant. And Monica's like, I don't have a restaurant. I work in a restaurant. And I can't tell you how many times I've had to have this conversation with my family. Like,
I don't have a store.
I don't have a store. I just manage one.
Right.
Yes. Well, this dynamic between Judy and Monica lasts for the entire series. Like, she is constantly trying to win the approval of her mother. Mm-hmm. And her mother is still finding ways to constantly bring her down or find ways that she's not perfect.
Yeah. And so here we have Ross revealing to the parents Geller that
you knew about this.
That yeah. And still Monica somehow gets the blame.
Yes. Yep.
Which again though is the thing of like women, mothers and their girl children.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Totally.
And like this whole thing that happens on so many TV shows of like, oh, I get to close the place I work while also just letting my friends hang out here.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't happen.
This is like actually somewhat related to my job. That's very much against the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Does the lamp stay for the entire series? The little stained glass lamp next, the one
it's
that they
the one from the intro.
It's the one from the intro, but is it always there at Central Park throughout the entire series?
I don't think so.
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either.
Because I'm like noticing it and being like, I had never really noticed that, hence why I never watched the early seasons.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not there. But this is where we just got to find out that Phoebe was a twin. We talk a little bit about that. We really only see Ursula like a handful of times.
Well, I think that they felt like they only really had to, Mad About You was probably a much bigger show at this point in time, and they had to address the fact that Lisa Kudrow was in these two different shows at the same time, and they definitely never talk about Ursula, or you never see Ursula again after the show has ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here, I think it's interesting the way that the like blocking essentially of the show is made so that Ross and Rachel are left alone.
Yes.
So everyone has like left the coffee shop and now it's Ross and he's making some joke and we have an opportunity in the second episode for them to have a moment. And we get to see a little bit of Rachel's like privilege and entitlement where he like offers to help her and she just takes a load
She's
off.
like, yes, just do all my closing duties.
Yeah. Oh, right. And we didn't talk about this yet, but she's supposed to go see Barry and return the ring tomorrow.
Yes.
Right. And we can see so much of Ross. This is actually one of the only moments I think that Ross is like truly vulnerable with Rachel.
Really?
Well, because he thinks he's a broken shell of a man. And because he has the ability to kind of third party it and say like, oh, this man who I identify with has just recently been dumped, like must feel this way.
Yeah.
And he gets to be honest. Again, toxic masculinity ruins the party. But he doesn't have any like option, to like, or space really that he feels safe saying this is how I feel.
Yeah, because men are not supposed to talk about their feelings.
Right, because it
Yes.
makes you a sissy, because anything that is like emotions are the realm of women.
Yes.
And anything that you do that is somehow in the realm of women makes you feminine.
Exactly.
And that's like totally
Makes
horrible.
you weak, makes you not a man.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Which is actually just the opposite.
Yeah.
Hashtag feminism.
Yep. Hashtag let's just talk about feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hashtag gender roles are bullshit.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to date ourselves with our
With our hashtags.
I blame Jimmy Fallon for that one. Anyway. Oh,
Here we are.
Here we are.
In the sonogram
the
room.
sonogram. Yeah.
Yes, with original Carol.
Original
And this
Carol.
this is the first time that you get to see Susan.
This is the first time you get to see Susan.
Yeah.
God, she's so gorgeous. I love her outfit too. Like the
Hello, Susan. Good shake. Good shake.
right? Like
Oh.
you like to have sex with women, so
Yeah.
I must like compliment you in a masculine way.
Exactly.
Oh, this though, I didn't even realize until the other day when I was rewatching this second episode, like the African American female doctor.
Yes.
Like yay!
Yes.
Black people do exist. And
What's that,
in positions of power.
Yes.
Yet somehow Ross still manages to be like, oh, of course your doctor would be a she.
Yeah.
And that still manages to somehow be
Belittling.
like a lesbian joke, which
Yeah.
we haven't talked about yet
Oh.
on air, but like the whole problematic aspect of this show is that being gay is the butt of the joke.
I wouldn't say it's the entire show, but definitely the first season is
I think I disagree. I think it pervades through the entire 10 seasons.
I don't think that it's the butt of the entire season or the entire series. But like in season 1, especially Carol leaving Ross for a woman
Right.
is the butt of every
single joke. But that persists like throughout, and we even see things. It switches towards Chandler, right, where Monica will say like, "Oh, like well, what's the thing where she's like, do you want him to be your guy?"
I don't know. Maybe time to kiss a guy.
Right. So like, it's problematic that it's like, but pump ching,
Right.
gayness, and it's not just like, oh hey, gay people exist, which. In 1994, acknowledging that gay people exist was great.
And that they can be a loving family and raise a child
Right,
and get
and get
married.
married and all that
that
stuff.
was actually like probably groundbreaking at that time.
Totally.
25 years later, we
It's-
look at it and we're like, okay, well, it's still like the joke.
Right. And it's one of the reasons why there are people out there who still think that, like, we should basically have some kind of legal say over who can marry who and things like that. And like, it's just, it's so, this one of the things I love about the show. It's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, right? Is because like looking at what was revolutionary or groundbreaking or at least inclusive at the very least,
Yes.
right? In 1994 and seeing like how it stood the test of time. This whole line, the way that they treat and approach gay people, like the first thing it pings in my head is, well, clearly, like, there was no one on the writing staff who felt comfortable being out or being gay, like being out in work, if because I don't want to assume that there was no one who was gay,
Right.
And
But
there's
at
no
least being, like,
problem,
the quote, out and proud.
right?
Yeah.
And there's no problem with not being out in a situation where it's not safe for you. But like, it's still hurtful to see the way that gay people are like belittled
Yeah.
in this way.
Yeah.
And let alone like talking about someone who's bisexual or like was Chandler's dad trans? We don't really know.
Right.
Like we talked about last time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like murkiness that needs to be cleared up, and it still reinforces heteronormativity because it panders
Yes.
to heterosexual people.
Absolutely. Yes.
And it
because
makes
that's who
heterosexual
they're-
people feel better than other people who
Right.
may be not heterosexual.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that for 1994, it was probably a big deal to give Carol and Susan the kind of like, because they are clearly in a very loving, very committed, very secure
Yeah.
relationship, and that I'm given in 1994. I was 3 years old. Just throwing that out there. But I'm trying to think of like other shows that I'm familiar with from the 90s, and I can't really think of any kind of storyline in which.
I know there was like the Ellen show, but I don't even think that was
But after she came out, her show got canceled.
I know.
And she really wasn't accepted by the media
Yeah.
again until Finding Nemo. And then she got, the Ellen show, which is great, and her and Portia are wonderful. Yes.
That was after Finding Nemo?
That was after Finding
I thought her
Nemo.
talk show was before Finding Nemo.
I mean, we could look it up, but I'm fairly positive
Yeah,
that it came
I don't-
afterwards.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Now where Rachel gets to see Barry. Rachel gets to be
And Barry's at work. Another instance
Yep,
where we're at
Barry's at
somebody's
work.
work.
Rachel becomes, what would we call it? Insecure.
Well, Ross had advised Rachel to show up at Barry's work not looking great. Like,
Right.
just, don't show up looking your best. And so she shows up and Barry looks really good. And she's like, like I tried to make myself look a little less than.
Right. Oh, and now, okay, we're back in the Threes Company, which did you see that there was a Threes Company reference in the beginning of this season? I think this is the one with Threes Company where there's some kind of misunderstanding. That's the very beginning of this or episode, not season.
Yes.
This frustrates me. The stuff about the baby's name, because
Yeah, we talked about this a couple days ago, but for the sake of the podcast.
yeah, I mean, it's just like we still haven't established whether or not Ross, like, he hasn't said like a hard go, I'm gonna be involved, right? He's at this sonogram,
He's
so
at
like
the
actions
sonogram.
speak louder than words.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
Carol and Susan have also
already
acted in the like, I don't care what you do or say. Like, this is
Yeah.
what we're doing, which isn't, given the context of their breakup and the timeline, I don't think the most fair.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now we're back with Rachel and Barry in the orthodontist office, and we find out that Barry was screwing around with Mindy.
Yep. And went on their honeymoon with Mindy,
Yeah.
which is almost kind of a foreshadow to what's going to happen with Ross and Emily. Yeah. Like, it kind of seems
I didn't
like
even think about that. That's true.
like Rachel kind of becomes Mindy.
But she doesn't, because like
they're
we
not
find out
actively-
later before Barry and Mindy get married that they were screwing around like the whole time.
Yeah, but Rachel, when Emily and Ross are getting married, decides that she's still in love with him. So
Right.
there is feeling on at least one end.
There's feeling, but there's not.
But they're
like,
not acting on
penis
it.
and vagina.
There's no penetration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Barry annoys me.
I know. I'm not sad that you don't see Barry after the first season.
You do though.
When?
It's not the first season where they get married. It's the end of the
Oh,
third season where
season. The one
Where
where she sings
Monica
Coke.
and Richard break up?
Yeah, that's the second
That's the
season.
second season? Okay. That's
end of
at
this-
Barry and Mindy's wedding. I thought that was the third season.
What happens at the end of the third season?
I think that it's that. Because
No, the end of the second season is where she sings Copacabana and
Okay.
Bo Peep.
Okay.
Yeah. Shit, what happened? The fourth season is the beach.
Okay. We'll
Yeah.
we'll get there.
Regardless, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Glug, glug, glug.
Right.
Nice bottle of wine. Yeah.
Okay. Rachel's returning the ring. Barry's managing to be disparaging still. Like Mindy would settle for that. Okay.
Yeah.
As a woman, I am incredibly offended by this idea that we have to like spend a certain amount of money on a ring. As a couples and family therapist and a scientist, I happen to know that the data says that there is a parabola, like a U shape, an upside down U shape, where to a certain point of ring cost, you have like kind of correlations to relationship satisfaction. Past a certain point of ring cost, it goes down. So like up to a certain percentage of like your annual income, if your engagement ring costs like whatever percent of it, you know, you're likely that your relationship satisfaction is going to also be better. And this is correlation, not causation. I can't stress that enough. Those two things are not the same. But then like the more expensive essentially the ring gets, the less likely it's going to be that you have a satisfying relationship.
I can't say I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That was
Okay.
it. Did you catch the quote?
Can't say
I'm surprised.
Yeah. We're okay. So we're back where
They're arguing about the names.
Which is also foreshadowing to Emma's name.
I feel like that was more indecisive.
We also get to see some stuff with them grappling around last names, which I think is interesting because I remember the very first time I watched this before, you know, I'd even graduated from my undergrad, which, you know, took me quite a long time to do that. So I was like 25 at that point, but that's okay. Like I remember siding with Ross on this, thinking like, oh, well, yeah, he's the father. It should be his last name. And now that I'm a little bit more grown, a little bit more woke, like, I'm like, why do we have to give this child like 10,000 names? And you know what I think is interesting is that we never actually know what Ben's last name is.
That is very true.
We never find out.
Only know that his name is Ben. In fact, you never know if Carol or Susan changed their names. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do kind of like that. And see, here, Ross is giving up. It's too hard. My fragile masculinity. It's too hard.
I'm not getting my way.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, so what I like about this, amongst all this fragile masculinity and all this stuff, I really like this moment here where they come together. Ross reaches out for Susan's hand, essentially, because they have so much more in common.
They really do. And I think that that's what threatens Ross.
It
is
truly
absolutely what threatens him as a character.
But we get to also
it's
see...
not about Carol. It's about Susan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because she's like dry and sarcastic, just like he is.
Yes.
We call you Bobo the sperm guy. But you also get to see like that men have an honest, like,
internalized
evolutionary
kind of,
parental instinct.
Absolutely.
And as a society, we totally don't talk about those things. We think, oh, mom, maternal instinct, like grow it in your body, feed it from your breasts, whatever. We don't really talk about dads having their like paternal instinct. And this is one moment again where you get to see, like,
definitely
there is something almost indescribable, I think. And I'm not a parent, right? So I don't really know.
Right. Yeah. I'd like to caveat all of what I'm about to say by the fact that I have never been pregnant. I am not a parent. Yeah. But I think that there is some kind of misconception out there about like a woman becomes a mother when she finds out that she's pregnant and a father becomes a father when he sees his baby for the first time. That's clearly not the case.
No, it's not the case. And like as a couples and family therapist, that's definitely not the case. And it's hard because, like we were saying
There's definitely
earlier,
mothers that don't feel that
Yeah.
way too. It's not just the men.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is a really beautiful moment.
It really is. I mean,
Where-
he hears the heartbeat, he turns around, and there's Ben. And they all get to kind of come together as this parenting team.
Right.
And that's really what it continues to be for the rest of the series, is
Right.
that they are a team.
Which, like, if Ross could just not be, like, the embodiment of, like, heteronormative, like, white male fragility, then, like, they would actually be a really awesome parenting team.
If Ross was just a little more woke.
Oh, and we've reached the end. And they're all watching the sonogram because it's the one with the sonogram at the end.
Yes.
But then we get a little bit of Monica's baby fever.
Which Monica has baby fever the entire series.
Oh, yeah. I definitely did not feel that way when I found out that I was going to be an aunt. Like, I had the feelings, but it wasn't like, I want a baby for me.
I'm so jealous. I can never relate to that as an only child. Like, I'll never have that feeling until it happens, if it happens to me.
I feel like you'll have that feeling.
Well, if it happens
If or
to a
when
friend.
I have a baby.
It's just like, it's such a grown-up thing. To
Right.
think that Ross is like, what, 28?
26.
No, Monica's 26.
No, in the first episode, that we just watched, he says, I'm 26 and I'm divorced.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought that...
There is a problem.
Okay, so there's an issue with Ross's age.
There's an issue with Ross's age. Yeah.
Yes.
His age stays stagnant and then changes.
And then suddenly
Right.
everybody turns 30.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, but that episode is meant to span time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, he's clearly the oldest, and then Chandler is also his age.
Right. Ross and Chandler are the same age.
Yeah.
We don't really know about Joey.
Or
Or
Phoebe.
Phoebe. Except that she's 31 when she thinks she's 30.
Yes.
But anyway,
And then-
I think we're on a
good-
tangent.
yeah.
So
Let's end this.
yeah, I think that'll be it for our episode 2. And
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And, until next time, the one with the thumb.
thanks for listening, everybody. You can find us on YouTube and SoundCloud at The One With The Podcast, on Facebook at The One With The Podcast, and on Twitter at With The Podcast. And now you can find us on Stitcher. Just search for Valerie and Kelly.
Audio production for The One With The Podcast by Chris Kurz.